friend and you've really missed an opportunity, if you haven't done something really great for their self-esteem before you've lobbied for your reason for being there. So it's important to make friends, and we've all learned how to do that. We've also learned to have some good knockdown, drag-out fights on occasion. Nobody would call us lily-livered or wussies, right? We can be tough when we have to, but we always make up because we know that it's not one issue. It's not one issue within our coalition, and we're even learning that one issue advocacy really can be short-sighted, that there are other groups out there, right, that are natural allies to what our central issues are, which is quality of life, adequate resources to live. So our strategies we've used, Janie just talked about letters, but we've done some civil disobedience, right? I've been arrested out of the County Board of Supervisors when we were trying to get a wage increase and an employer of record, and that was before the legislation came down. They just said, sorry, you're out of order, you have to leave. And we said, oh, no, we think you're leaving. And they ran. That's all I can tell you. And we occupied the office. And, you know, we had to go through that. So from everything from letter writing and finding natural allies within the disability and senior community to civil disobedience and finding broader issues to relate on. In other words, finding even larger common ground than just a quality home care program. I do want to say one thing, that there's been some work, and if you look at what we're doing right now, we are hooking up to larger coalitions. And before my time was up, I just wanted to let you all know there's the Health and Human Services Network. And I just want to I want you to listen to what their statement of being is and see if you think our coalition belongs with them. We are a network of advocates, consumers, and allies working together for strong health care, human services in California. We are statewide, diverse, and grassroots. Our network includes people who care about health care, home care for seniors and people with disabilities, emergency food, and food stamps. Remember that one. Domestic violence shelters, independent living centers. Well, that got my attention for people with disabilities. And child abuse and neglect prevention, women's health care, community health clinics, AIDS prevention and care, and more. In other words, the basic human needs we all share. So if taking from what we've learned, guess what I learned this trip? I always learn something. I got a chance to sit down on Janet's session on accountability with action. So a lot of you heard about Marty Emoto's How to Talk to a Legislator, right? Okay, so I took all that and I said, I can work with this. This is good. And then Lenny Goldberg, remember when Deborah Doctor said, got to find the low-hanging fruit? Where if you don't want them to take our money, where are they going to get the money from? Sometimes our talking points say, don't talk about that. I would encourage us, no, by all means, tell them where to get the money. They're not smart enough to figure it out. You got to give them a cheat sheet, just to remind them. So I brought copies of this. If you do not have access to go to the website that Deborah gave you, come see me. It's in the hot pink attaché at my table, and I will give you a copy of this to take home, because I know some of you don't have access to the internet at home, and it's important for us to remember that.
Hi, I'm John Stansbury. My background is that I spent about 30 years being a litigation lawyer in California, and when I left the practice of law, I ended up over at the IHSS Public Authority in Marin, and was there for 5 years, and now I'm free to do anything that I want to do, and so that means that I get to work with Janie and Janet and all the people on the IHSS coalition, Jovan and Donna, and I'm happy. I'm a happy man. Let me tell you, I'm a latecomer. There are a number of people in this room who have been working on these issues for many years before I showed up, and they know it in their bones and their DNA. But sometimes latecomers have something else to offer because they can take a fresh look at it. And the things that I want to say are that when I realized that, because I didn't even know what IHSS meant when I went to work for the Marin Public Authority. They were just looking for somebody to set up their office. And so you didn't have to know anything about IHSS. But when I started reading the Welfare and Institutions Code in AB 1682 and saw that there was a provision there, a state-mandated legislative provision for advisory committees to have a real voice at the table, I was amazed because I'd never heard of anything like that before, that the people who are served by a program have a legal right to sit at the table and have a conversation with the people who are actually doing the program. To me, that's the most direct possible democracy that you can have. So, my sort of vision about IHSS and home care is that the people who are served by the program need to be the ones that say how the program is going to be. The coalition that we're talking about here has had many different creations, I guess, or lives. But one of the coalitions that I understand from the people who were here when it was going on, that it wasn't until the unions and the consumers, the stakeholders, got together and combined their energies that they were actually able to push something through the legislature on a bipartisan basis and have the bill signed by a Republican governor. We kind of forget because that stuff doesn't happen anymore. Now it's 100% Democrats voting one way and 100% Republicans voting the other way. But it used to be that there was bipartisanship in California, and everybody, Republicans included, have family members or even themselves who have some kind of disability who need public services. And so it's just as important to them as it is to the Democrats, as far as I'm concerned. When I got on the scene was in 2004. That was the first year that Governor Schwarzenegger was in office, and he put out his first budget on January 10th, 2004, and it proposed to reduce provider wages back to minimum wage and eliminate any health care benefits. And it didn't seem to provide for public authorities either, because there was nothing in the budget for public authorities. So if that was going to happen, that meant the employer of record was out the window, all the union contracts were out the window. Basically, he wanted to put IHSS back, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years, way back. So the coalition became alive again in response to that challenge, and it was the unions and the consumers who mounted that attack. The reason that I felt that it was so important that the unions and the consumers get together, you know, in most places out in the world, the employers, the consumers, or the customers don't necessarily have an identity of interest with the workers. And, you know, that's just a struggle. It's like landlords and tenants kind of a thing, you know. They're always against each other. Management and the workers kind of always struggling against each other. But I said, you know, there may be some places where the unions and the consumers have a different interest. But 98% of the time, their interests are identical. Consumers want better wages. Consumers want better working conditions. In fact, close to half of the people in California are who are on IHSS are served by a family member. So this has to do with the whole family. So there is an absolute identity of interest where the worker wants a good IHSS program for their family member, and the family member wants a good IHSS program for the worker. The thing that made this so powerful in my mind was that the unions have money, and their job, their business, what they